All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the party. This is the Wise Idea Podcast with Christopher J. Harris. I am your host, Christopher J. Harris, and I want to welcome you to my podcast. We've been going strong now for a few weeks, and it has been an incredible journey, and I'm extremely honored that you took the time to hang out with us each week as you've been joining in. Thank you to those of you that have been posting iTunes reviews and Google Play reviews, and wherever you listen to podcasts, you've been putting those reviews up. We've been seeing those and are very, very humbled that you've been encouraged and inspired and invigorated and rejuvenated from what you've heard and experienced with all of these epiphany moments that you've had while we've had this podcast up and going. We are focused and we are on mission to provide you with strategies for hearts to be inspired and heads to become wise. And so if you're new to us, we release a brand new podcast on a weekly basis on Thursdays. And a lot of you we know listen to this podcast with friends and listening groups and listening parties from all over the world. And we would love for you to keep us clued in on that and aware of where you're listening from and how people are being inspired and encouraged by listening to the Wise Idea Podcast. We've had a cast of amazing guests, and the guest list is only going to get better and improved. It's amazing of what God is doing. Every guest that I've had so far on the podcast has been a 10. Man, they've been hitting it out of the park and doing an incredible job. And so I want to invite you, please connect with us on social media. Our goal is to provide you with tools and information that you can share with others and that you can apply to your own life in a very real way. And so share this podcast with family and friends and your social media family. That would really mean a lot to me. That's why we're doing it. That's why we take the time to do it. And in case you didn't know, it takes a lot of time and work to make a podcast episode a reality. If you want to get the episodes and the notes and the resources sent directly to you, you can go to thewiseidea.net and sign up and subscribe right there. And everything that you need will be sent right to your inbox. And then finally, let me say, as you're listening, you may have questions that you want to ask us. We're open to that. You may have ideas and thoughts that you want to share with us. We're open to that as well. And so please send us an email, info@christopherjharris.com, and we will respond back as quickly as we can. Listen, on our last episode, we had Tony Munson, my new friend, my great friend from Meridian, Idaho, which is right outside of Boise. And by day, he is a software engineer. He explained that to us in great detail. And then by night and weekend and any other hours of the day that he's awake, he's thinking about how to improve the lives of Christians and his church. And he's serving there as a teacher and a worship leader and so many other hats that he's wearing. But most importantly, he is on the Wise Idea today talking about his brand new book that came out in 2017 called People Skills for Christians. Surely Christians are good people, right, Tony?
We would like to think so, yes. Sometimes not so much.
Yeah, so what led you to write this book? Just let's recap really quickly. What led you to even say this is a book that we need to be having a conversation about?
All right, well, just being in my local church for the last 12 years and kind of seeing a revolving door for certain personalities that come in, get past that honeymoon period, realize that this church pretty much has the same problems that every church has when it comes to individuals. We're imperfect people, and them not being able to deal with it and unplugging, not realizing that they're not the Lord of their lives anymore. If God led them to this church, that's where they're supposed to stay, and there's some growing that they need to do, and they're part of a body there. There's a bigger game at play than just whether they like certain individuals or not. And so I saw it with almost without exception, people just leaving because of problems with other Christians, and I had enough of it and decided to try to do something about it.
That's incredible. So in part one, and for those that are listening to this particular episode, if they did not hear part one, we're not going to spend the whole time recapping part one. They just got to go back and listen to that incredible episode Amazing content that you shared there and laying the foundation, which was actually part one of your book. Today, we want to deal with part two of the book and really some very concrete application and concrete steps that people can take, particularly those of us that are Christians and followers of Christ, disciples of Christ, that we can take to apply and be better people and better Christians as we interact with people. I think one of the clear points that you make in the book is, and I love this, that literally every new season or every promotion or every increase that comes in your life comes through people. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. People are the gatekeepers of your opportunities. When you think about in the secular world, at some point, an individual has to say, yes, we will give Christopher this promotion, or no, we will not. And your ability to effectively influence, diffuse problems, motivate individuals, not cause problems, is a piece of that pie. In Carnegie's book, How to Influence People, he throws a statistic up there that says something like 85% of your lifetime earning potential has to do with your people skills ability, human engineering. And so it's easy for us to think it's all about our ability to just execute. It's not. It's all about influencing others. So
I think you allude to this in the book. I mean, one of the other books that I read, you referenced this in your book about emotional intelligence. And, you know, make no mistake about it, I think this notion of emotional intelligence was a fad that took off. But there's some real truth to that. I think there's another book, and I don't know if you referenced this in the latter part of the book. I hadn't gotten to that far yet. But this book by Peter Scazzaro, Emotionally Healthy Leader, and the Emotionally Healthy Church, was an incredible book that was a game changer for me as a follower of Christ and for those that I have an opportunity to influence and lead. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the very practical things. Like in chapter 13, you actually give 3 do nots. What were those 3 do nots?
Oh, yeah. So the 3 do nots were don't criticize people.
Yeah.
Another one was don't complain. And another one was don't gossip. These are very much Dale Carnegie inspired concepts with scripture sprinkled throughout. And if from a broader sense, what I'm trying to get at is watch what you say. And so the thing is I challenge your listeners, and I even challenge you, Christopher, like, what do you say during the day? Not what do you think you say, like what do you actually say? If you were to sit back and think about the words that come out of your mouth, you might be shocked to figure out how you actually talk. So as tongue-talking believers here, we're all about faith and promises of God and peace, joy, and love. And yet if you were to sit and record yourself for an entire day and play it back, you may be mortified to realize how you actually speak, because it's unbelief. It's roast pastor for church after Sunday. It's tearing down your kids, your family members. This isn't going good enough. I don't have this opportunity. It's just death, 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 death. And then we go to church and we want to, for 45 minutes a week, act like we can speak life, and that just negates living totally contrary to that throughout the week. So those 3 concepts really come down to, what do you really say? I mean, do you look for the good in individuals, or do you look for the bad? Yeah. When something happens, do you want to share it with as many people as you can? Are you a constant complainer that just sucks the life out of individuals? So just 3 very practical things.
Man, there's so much meat in that, and I wish we had like 30 hours to kind of just talk about that and break that down. I might have to have you for another episode at some point, and I will have you back at some point, and we'll dig more into this. I loved chapter 19. You talked about how to be a better listener, but the thing that caught me was you talked about learning how to, I mean, among other things, right? Obviously listening to people and all of that. But you had this other angle, man, that just totally threw me for a curveball in this chapter. You talked about how to listen to your own body, right? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I had read a book by someone who was in the FBI, and it was all about how your body language is perceived. And of course, it's very easy to identify when someone's obviously not paying attention to you. For instance, if I'm talking to you and you're sleeping, okay, well, I mean, that's a key indicator. But the thing is there's lots of little subtle things that you do subconsciously that other people pick up on, and they perceive you as not listening to them. And the direct result of that is, well, this person must not think I'm important enough to listen to, because I can tell by these nonverbals they're giving that they're not paying attention. And that affects our ability to influence other individuals, things that we're not even aware of. And so in this book, and there's other resources, just trying to point out, like, be conscious and methodical and explicit about everything that you do as a person. There are no off days as a leader and an influencer. People are always watching us, and we need to be aware of how everything is perceived, because the Christian body needs us.
Yeah, it's interesting because I learned this the hard way, even as it relates to scheduling meetings, right? So listening to your body. So there's certain times of the day that I discovered that just don't work for me to have a meeting. Like I'm not going to be there. The biorhythm of my body is just not going to help me to produce and be effective. And so even as it relates to being honest about that, it's not that I was a bad person. That time of the day just doesn't work for me. Or even certain things that happens, if I don't get my workout in the mornings, or, I'm not able to drink enough water, the clarity of thought that I have, so listening to your body and knowing your rhythm, I think is just very important. And, people could try to over spiritualize that, but God made us multidimensional people for a reason. And we've got to be able to pay attention to all of those dimensions.
Yes. And if you look like you don't want to talk to someone, they are reading that loud and clear. And they may not say anything, but they walk away from that conversation feeling like, I was talking, they weren't listening, and in a very small way, they have a diminished opinion of you as a person. And as leaders and people influencers, it's all about the little wins. It's not just about huge wins. It's constantly displaying the character necessary to qualify yourself to lead. And people skills are a huge part of that.
All right, guys, we'll be right back. I know you are right in the middle of an incredible conversation, and you were gleaning things from this incredible conversation that we're having currently. We'll get right back to it. I was enjoying myself as well, but I wanted to interject really quickly and just invite you, if you are listening to this podcast, that probably means that you are also on social media. Well, listen, I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. As a matter of fact, y'all, guess what? I'm also on Pinterest. I would love to have you as a part of my tribe, my following, my connection, my social media family. And so if you're on any of those platforms, I'm at CJ Harris, O-N-E, CJ Harris, O-N-E. Would love to connect with you. So while this commercial is even going on, before we get back into the conversation, why don't you go online right now, pull your devices out, pull your computer out, and hit the follow button, hit the friend request button, hit the engage button, and we'd be so glad to have you as a part of our social media following and family. Not only that, as you listen to this podcast, you may be hearing things that are insightful for you, things that are being shared where the light bulb goes off. I would love to hear about those moments. As a matter of fact, you may be listening and there may be questions that you have or things you'd like to share with us that you're hearing. And either way, we'd love to hear from you. So please send us an email. The email address is info, I-N-F-O, at ChristopherJHarris.com. Again, that's info at ChristopherJHarris.com. Not only that, but lastly, if you have a project or a book or a platform that you'd like to promote or advertise with us, you're thinking that this would be a great audience for you to reach and connect with, we'd love to start a conversation with you about that. So please send us an email, again, at info at ChristopherJHarris.com. And in turn, we'll send you an information sheet and be glad to start that incredible conversation of partnership with you. With that said, guys, let's get right back into this amazing conversation that we're having. Be sure to pull your notes back out. It's going to be fun. Let's go. So in chapter 23, you talk about dealing with conflict. Oh, Oh my goodness. Like this, that's probably, I mean, there's entire volumes of books written on conflict. And you cover it in one chapter in this book called People Skills for Christians. Talk to us, Tony. Tell us how to handle conflict as a
Well,
Christian.
that's probably my meatiest chapter, or I think the topics that people like the most, because it's something we all have to deal with all the time. There is family, children, coworkers, other individuals having bad days. I mean, if we're going to run away from people every time we have conflict, we're eventually just going to be by ourselves. And so I feel like we either get better at dealing with it or we have it adversely affect our life. So when it comes to conflict, I cover things like forgiveness. You know, as Christians, we'd say, yes, I'm supposed to forgive. Well, my rebuttal to that would be, well, do you? Because by the way you're acting, I don't think you're forgiving people for anything. You'll say the right thing, but your actions are sort of undermining your profession there. I talk about apologizing if you're wrong. Like, it is okay to be wrong. If you're wrong all the time, that's a different problem, but you actually can gain more influence with individuals by just saying, you know what, guess what? I missed it. Guys, I'm sorry, I'm wrong, and I won't let it happen again. There are some people I know that will never admit that they're wrong. And so what happens is those individuals end up getting sidestepped somewhere along the way. They don't get the promotion they're looking for, or they're looking to be involved in a particular ministry. Doesn't work out for them because people with these resources are looking for people of character to give those to.
I think maybe, Tony, sometimes maybe they need more spiritual words to grab hold of this, because what you're talking about is really, I mean, these are words and phrases that we've used over the years in the Christian circle. But what you're talking about is very practical, and it makes sense, and it's necessary. You're talking about things like having a teachable spirit. You're talking about things like not having pride, right? And
Absolutely, yes.
We know the Bible says pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. But you're simply saying, just apologize, right? When I worked in the corporate space, we would have a phrase, very simple, that said, own it, right? If you messed up, just own it. It's okay. You're not going to get fired because you messed up. Just own it so that we can move forward. And I discovered that there's, your credibility skyrockets when you own it.
Yeah, remember this. It's easier to pull out a weed when it's 1 inch tall than it is to pull out when it's 5 feet high. And a lot of problems that we face with other individuals, we need to look at it like, okay, this is a little weed. Let's take care of that right now. And it never will even manifest itself into that giant thistle bush.
I love that you very practically throughout the book, as I talked about earlier, you're a software engineer. So you included all of these, mechanical and technical business and corporate illustrations and examples throughout the book. And you spent a few minutes talking about the process of getting software approved and working through some of the testing of that it's much easier and even more cost effective to catch things before they've been released to market versus after they've been released to market, that if you put a product out and you find this major glitch in it after it's been released to market, it could actually shut your company down by trying to go back to fix that glitch.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, that's something that I see play out as part of my work life. And the same thing applies to us just as human beings. So if I make a mistake and I immediately rectify that with the parties, the cost is almost nothing to me. However, if I let it linger, I let it grow legs, I refuse to own up to my mistakes, what happens is that starts having, in some situations, catastrophic effects on my ability to influence, and really is a testament to my character. So I just view things like, if I wrong you, even if I'm not sure if I did, I'm still apologizing for it. It doesn't mean I'm a pushover. It's just I understand the impact it can have. And so it's living more wisely. It's just, like understanding people's nature, they're predictable, what they respond to, what they don't, and playing within that. We have big things we're trying to do, Christopher, you and I don't have time to be spending energy on doing things that I know already cause problems with individuals. Like, let's just get those in the bank. Let's just do those right out of the gate and get onto the meat stuff. I don't need to be at personal wars with individuals. I don't have time for that.
Yeah. I read a psychology study one time, and I'd love to, I would need to find it. I may put it in the show notes if I could find it. But basically it was suggesting, and I'm paraphrasing here quite a bit, but basically suggesting that as human beings, we are not wired to handle multiple broken relationships. And when you think about that from a biblical standpoint, God calls us to be ministers of reconciliation. And so if we're called to be ministers of reconciliation, where we're reconciling or rebuilding or building bridges with relationships, the Bible uses the term joints, right? That our relationships are our joints. And when your joints aren't working properly, it creates so much stoppage. I just made that word up, but it creates so much stoppage in your life, you know?
Well, think about the Tower of Babel. This is an Old Testament story. What happened? You had all these people come to you. They were in unity, and what did God say about them? He said basically, and I'm paraphrasing, like, wow, they're coming together. There's basically nothing they can't do. Well, that same principle applies to us now as the New Testament church. So why is the enemy of the church so intent on dividing us? Because he understands how it works. So when we are together in unity, there is nothing we cannot do. As a church body, when we're together, there is nothing we can't do. So what am I going to spend my time doing? I'm going to spend my time trying to divide people. And what does division look like? What you say, what you do, driving wedges, criticizing, gossiping about others, talking behind people's back. That's what creating division looks like.
Yeah. All right, Tony. So we've gone through the book. People need to go get the book. Like, this is, you're like in my top 10 now, right? So
Hooray.
Yeah. Give us, as we close this out today, give us two very immediate, like, go do this now. Like chapter 25, you talk about how do we get better, right? But like, if somebody's listening to this podcast, this particular episode, they go back and they listen to episode 1, part 1 of this episode, or this interview, this conversation. 2 things they can do right now that's going to put them on the path to change the trajectory of their life as a Christian or Christ follower to immediately get better with people.
Okay, that's great. So the first thing that I would say, and this didn't even cross my mind, I consider myself a fairly intelligent person, I guess, is realizing that there are answers to your questions. And we get so comfortable in our space that we forget to even ask, is there a better way to do things? So if you're experiencing problems, go find resources in those areas and seek out truth in those areas. If you're having marital problems, go seek out information about your marriage. If you're having parental problems, go seek that out. If you're having trouble integrating with your church, go seek that out. There's people that have already figured out the solutions to those problems. So that would be one, open up to this idea that there's solutions to my problems. And then my second one would be, a game changer for me was listening to personal growth material on my way to and from work. I have listened to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of spirit-led, anointed teaching, and has drastically changed the way that I think. And I'm not missing out on anything in my life because I'm already stuck in the car. So be open to learning, seek it out.
Yeah. Let me ask this, Tony. In the book, you mentioned that you realized for you had gotten to a point in your life where you were like, man, I'm wasting my life by watching TV. And you talk about that you cut the cord. Have you guys still cut the cord, or do you have cable back now?
No TV. I'm telling you, one of the best ways to affect your quality life is to watch what you see, read, and hear. Pay close attention, because that's the only way it gets in your brain. If you keep the trash out on the front end, it will never manifest itself in your life. Watch out.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. I'm not necessarily encouraging my listeners that they got to cut the cord. I think there's creative ways to get around that now and save money and watch the junk that's going in. I'm a proponent of balance. My wife and I like to watch a lot of movies and things like that. But I think that there is incredible biblical and wise value in what Tony just shared about monitoring exactly what you're bringing in and putting in. And that could be from TV or books or even conversations or anything else. So it's not just cable TV or things like that. It's with all of those. So, Tony, this has been absolutely amazing conversation. Promise me you'll come back.
I promise you I'll come back.
All right. Awesome. So, guys, if you're listening to this podcast, Tony Munson has written the book, People Skills for Christians, How to Change Behaviors That Sabotage Believers' Lives. Oh, what a book. Guys, you got to go get the book. Go get the book. Tony, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how can they?
You can go to my website. It's effectivelivingllc.com, and I have a contact link there where you can email me, and I'll be super responsive and get back. I just want to help you guys however I can, get you pointed in the right direction. If you need help in any of these subjects, man, I'll do my best to get you connected up, because if the stronger we are individually, the stronger we are corporately.
Yeah, and we'll put all of that contact information in the show notes as well, so that everybody will be able to get a hold of you. Like, listen, y'all know I don't just recommend any book. I recommend things that are going to bring value to your life. So you've got to get this book, People Skills for Christians. It's available everywhere where books are sold. And I'm so glad, Tony, that you were on with us today. This has been absolutely amazing. So thank you, sir, for your time today. I want to take a moment and invite all of you, share this podcast, this episode, this conversation, these notes with other people. I want to also invite you, catch us on social media. I'm going to give you both my personal and the Wise Idea podcast social media so that you can connect with both. We've got the conversation. We're going to keep the conversation going on social media as well. On Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, I am at CJ Harris, ONE. I'd love for you to join with me there. The Wise Idea on Instagram is at the Wise Idea Podcast. And then on Twitter and Facebook, it's at the Wise Idea. I would love for you to share our post and share it with other people, both your friends and your enemies. Everybody could benefit from being a better Christian. And just because they're your enemy doesn't mean that they're not a Christian. God has grace for them as well. So this has been another episode of The Wise Idea with Christopher J. Harris. I am your host, Christopher J. Harris. I hope you have enjoyed our time together. And if you did and would like additional resources or information, you can find that information and more at thewiseidea.net. Again, join us on social media. Share us with all of your family and friends. Go to iTunes, head over to iTunes and Google Play and wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave us a rating and a review so that other people can find us and check us out. We'd also love to hear from you directly. If you've got questions or comments or thoughts, please send us an email at info@ChristopherJHarris.com. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you the next time. And as I say every week, be wise.
Principal thing.